Hello to everyone and welcome to AstroDesign. My name is Lily and this is going to be a very special video which will talk about two very popular and talked about individual right now in the world that are waging a war against each other. I'm talking, of course, about Putin versus Zelensky. My research will be based on their genetic map in human design and on astrology. I will elaborate in this video on their motives, character, the phase they are in life, and make a potential prediction for the upcoming, for the outcome of the war between these two people and between Ukraine and Russia. So it was watching the video till the end. Please take a note that in my interpretation, I say honestly what I see without beautifying things that do not exist anyway. So if you like hypocrisy and hearing only good stuff, you probably won't find it in my channel. I always try to be as neutral and objective as possible. Of course, I'm against war, I'm against control and ego games. In addition, at the beginning of the video, I'm going to present you the maps of Putin and Zelensky in a 3D. This is my new product that I've created that you can also order for yourself as a timeless gift or for others. All the details about my new digital products will be in the link below the video. Before I begin and dig into the subject of this video, there is an important issue that I want to mention. Human design is the genetic mapping of our true nature, what we were born with. But as a result of education, culture, and other variables from our environment, we develop and behave much more according to our false nature, which is derived from our inactivated energies, everything that is uncolored in your human design map, and the negative energies frequency of the energies that are activated in our map. That is everything that is colored. Usually, unconscious people behave more like their false nature, and on it I will base the interpretation of my video. So even if you have something in your map that either Putin or Zelensky have, it does not mean that you behave the same as them. To know how exactly this manifests in your life, you can feel free and contact me for personal advice based on your genetic mapping. Let's begin. By the hand of fate, both Putin and Zelensky from the same type, called manifestors. Very closed people, secretive to the point of mystery, not only for others, but for themselves as well. In addition, it is the only type that is built to initiate and start something on their own. Very independent people, but because they are a mystery to others, every time they initiate without sharing information with the people who are going to be affected by this initiative, they encounter objections and lots of problems. Their secrecy and mysteriousness hurt them and everyone around them. That is impacted by their actions when they behave according to their false self. Manifestors are born to deal with objections, but that doesn't mean they have to face it all the time. Their false self is an independent initiative without sharing others and without considering others. What can be seen on both sides. Both Putin and Zelensky do that. Because neither of them considering the citizens of Ukraine or the outcomes of this horrific and childish war. One of the things that manifestors love most and that they are born to achieve is the influence upon others, and they have the ability to push others into action. But there is, of course, a difference of their impact and purpose from their profiles and their cross in the map. Putin has a 5-1 profile and a cross of endeavor. His mission is to fixate energy of control in order to connect all the people under action to initiate something universal and affect the whole world. But the false self loses control of all the details and therefore creates only chaos and even more problems worldwide. 5-1 profile is a universal profile that loves control and attention. Combine that with him being a manifestor, and you get a person to whom control is the thing that interests him the most. But a talent, a true talent, genetic talent for control only exists in people who have a defined ego in the map. And Putin does not have it. Putin has only gate 21 in an open, undefined ego. So all his life, Putin has been trying to prove to everyone how much he is in control, especially since he is a fifth line. Everyone is projecting onto Putin that he is supposedly the one in control, and he should be the one in control. But in practice, he is just more and more losing this control, and especially initiating something without considering others that will lead to lose of control and a reputation as well. This projection can cause him lots of problems, because when he is projected to be in control, he has to act upon it. This is why he began a war to begin with, and this is why he won't end it easily. He afraid to lose his reputation and power, because as a fifth line, the false self trying to act upon every projection that they have from outside. So much so that he loses his own identity and becomes this projection. So it's the battle of undefined ego that wants to prove himself and express, and this is why it expressed in arrogance and excessive greed. Those who do not have an ego on the map, they do not know their true value. They don't value themselves. This is why they trying to prove themselves too much, okay? And these people usually, and Putin as well, he doesn't know the value of his actions. He cannot accurately know the value. So it is an inflated ego that wants to prove itself to the whole world. As well, the 21st gate, it's a power that everyone thinks that Putin must have. but it should be based on cold emotions, meaning it's not supposed to be based on desires, urges, or fear, but out of objectivity. Only that. In reality, Putin acts out of fears, desires, and that will cost him greatly later. This ego center is an unaware engine that needs to be based only on value, that Putin doesn't fully understand. This war is based on the false self, childish competition, and fears. True ego doesn't see any value in war. Putin doesn't have genetically the ability to evaluate something correctly. Plus, he wants to be the one to tell others what to do and when and how. Hence, ending the war of control will be even harder. It will turn this war into a war of attrition. Zelensky has a 4-6 profile and the cross of unexpected. He has a very fixed and stable character, despite his cross causing him to encounter unexpected things, which leads to discoveries and the ability to bring progress to others, to open doors, to fulfill wishes to others. But the false self here is exceeding expectations and fantasies about the results of any process, which do not correspond to reality, especially since Zelensky has the most fixed line of all, the fourth line, which makes him expect that his initiative will contribute to Ukraine to move forward without considering the outcomes. And he is pretty fixated on what he wants to initiate. Although Ukraine was in a war with Russia for many, many years, what ignited it all was Zelensky's request, or rather fantasy, of joining Ukraine to the NATO and being part of Europe. He certainly did not expect the result he gets from his dream initiative. In addition, this energy is unaware of what is experiencing during the experience. It just wants to experience and fulfill the fantasy it's locked upon. Only after the experience is over will the insights come. As for Putin, who is afraid of the opposition and wants to stay in a position of power, Ukraine's joining of the NATO strengthens it against him and could contribute to Ukraine attacking Russia at some point in the future. Another difference in their manifestation abilities is that Putin is influenced and impacted through the expectation and projections of others upon him and from him, and is expected to be in control. And hence he has immense influence because others giving him natural control power. Being a 5-1 profile, control and reputation for him is like air. So he will do everything to not lose that reputation. The first line gives him many hidden worries and paranoia that manage him unconsciously. One of the paranoia he has that is further strengthened by him being a manifestor, that does not understand people in depth, is that the US and Europe want to overthrow him and his control of Russia. Line 5 is a line of projection and therefore can change what he says and what he does depending on what he wants to achieve or what he knows that others project upon him. Besides the theme of the video, I want to point out that a lot, and even most of Hollywood stars and actors have this profile, have 5-1 profile, or a profile with the fifth line, 3-5, 2-5, or 5-2. Many famous actors has this line, because of their ability to be like chameleons and change themselves. Another fact is that Hitler was 5-1 profile manifestor. So back to the theme of the video. Zelensky, on the other hand, has a social profile, and this can certainly be seen from his appeal to the people. He has very strong, defined ego from birth, so he knows what his values are and has a natural talent for controlling both himself and others. Therefore, Zelensky will do everything to win this war and will not easily give in. And that fact is not good news for Ukraine. So both Zelensky and Putin are emotionally undefined, which indicates a cold-blooded activity full of desire to control and achieve their own. They operate spontaneously and without an internal switch that can alert them when enough is enough. In the historical pen, manifestors were the rulers and kings who started many wars, and therefore, according to human design, a new type of people was born, the projectors. They came to replace the harsh rulership of manifestors and the lack of consideration of others, with a much softer rulership based on guidance and support. But manifestors are still here, and the projectors still have no place, and others do not accept them as rulers because they are very different from other people. They are like aliens. Our genetic memory as well is still locked into the natural control of someone telling us what to do. But slowly and surely, people are changing the sheep-herd consciousness to more liberal thinking and stopping to follow whoever tells them inconsiderate commands. Despite manifestors being mystery to others, still genetically, it feels natural for people that manifestors or even manifesting generators should control and rule. Although it does not usually lead to desirable results. Also, manifestors are not just a mystery for others. Others are a mystery for them too. So they do not really understand the needs of other people and do not see others before their eyes. Back to Zelensky. His profile indicates his ability to influence through a huge social network he built for himself when he was still a comedian. His high-ranking network is the one who led to his election as president of Ukraine. Putin, on the other hand, gained much more natural control and stays in control because others see that and project upon him that it's just natural for him to be a leader. So the motives for war on both sides, from Putin, control, and once again control, global influence and his reputation, combined with fears regarding attacks from other countries. Of course, in my video, I do not talk about these motives being true or untrue. I'm just talking about their character and the motives based on it. With Zelensky, he wants control as well because he has ego, and he wants to influence because he is a manifestor, not less than Putin. He wants to promote himself and his network of friends to expand influence outside of Ukraine. And this needs good friends with Europe, especially the ones that borders Ukraine. He wants to promote Ukraine to the realization of his fantasies without checking whether the people at all want it or not, if they or he understand the outcome of it. He is very stubborn in his nature, and he loves to fight. It's his nature. So this will not let him negotiate or surrender quickly. In addition, he is full of courage, very courageous person, but fixated, not flexible at all. So he will fight for his homeland without compromise and excite others and initiate the action of others to do the same, which will not facilitate the completion process for this fighting soon enough. Where are they in their lives? Both started from their birthday dates, Putin from October 2021 and Zelensky from January 2022, a very, very difficult year in their lives that can lead to illness and disintegration of all areas of their lives. And to be more specific, in Putin's map, Scorpio ascendant, the ruler of which is Mars, was in conjunction to his natal Saturn and the rest of his planets in the 12th house, indicating morbidity, fatigue, multiple enemies, and resistance behind his back, behind the scenes. He also started his new year with Mercury in retrograde, conjunct Mars, so a lot of mental and communicative aggression, irrational thoughts to the point of psychotic, because it all happens in his 12th house that relates to the world of imagination and everything unrealistic, behind the scene, behind, not out of this world. 12th house as well is our anxieties, our fears. So all this conjunction in the transit multiply his fears that lead to unnecessary and illogical activities that will lead to problems later on, of course. In addition, Saturn's transit creates challenging aspect to his ascendant and to Venus in Scorpio that he has, that rules the field of popularity and other people in his life, which indicates stubbornness in character, inability to compromise, in addition to karmic damage that he can experience this year to his reputation, to his self-development, to the ways that people see him. And of course, it can be a risk to his health. In December, we had a solar eclipse right in front of his moon, which aroused in him obsessions of control and power games, because the moon in his natal chart is in the 8th house of control, a very difficult position to the moon to begin with. So a difficult year will pass for him And if in some miracle he remains in control of Russia this year, next year there will be changes in this control. For Zelensky, he too started this new year in January with Mercury in retrograde, which indicates a problematic year as well, with thoughts that will lead to illogical thinking and bad decision-making, especially if to believe his birth time, he has a Gemini rising and Mercury is his ruler. So Mercury plays a very, very important role in his life. Beyond that, the planet of karma and restriction, Saturn, conjunct his MC. This is karma for the fulfillment of his destiny and the very difficult test for him, especially as this Saturn is opposite his moon in Leo. His moon represents the world of values and his physical security. Therefore, there is also a great danger to him physically and not only to his country. Uranus transits his 12th house and brings surprising events behind his back, behind the scene. And it's the period of his Uranus opposition, a period full of changes and the need to adapt quickly. Uranus in Taurus also creates a particularly challenging aspect to his moon, and thus only intensifies the challenges that his moon has already from Saturn. Problems with his emotional world, to his security and physical health. There is a chance this year for a sudden event that will lead to his hospitalization. At the same time, his popularity and reputation are on the rise and very positively in the public eye. And this year is full of political issues and new agendas for him, which he will receive recognition in the next year if the physical damage is not too severe. The chances for physical harm are very high in the next 2 weeks or in May. To sum up for both, this is karma and a hard test of perseverance and putting all their skills to play. If they insist too much on the past and their desires, the result will be negative for both of them, and there will be no peace and quiet for either later on, which is what they really, really want and need, much more than the control that dazzles them. Now we'll talk a little bit about the forecast for Ukraine. As you can see for this map, which is generated upon the Ukraine Independence Day, when they declared its independence from Russia. It took place on the 24th of August 1991 at 6 o'clock in the evening. The date and the hour was not the most ideal day for it, to say the least. Mercury was in retro motion, which is always indicative of bad decisions and bad timing to do something new and significant. Also, many planets conjunct each other, which indicates an energy accumulation in one place. And once there is a bad transit, it will produce challenges to all the planets in this conjunction. In the transit map of the new year to Ukraine, you can see in the more positive pen that Jupiter, the planet of abundance and luck, was close to the moon of the country. and thus gave the people hope for the future and even excessive optimism, because this Jupiter looks opposite to the planets Ukraine has in its natal chart, which are Mercury, Venus, Sun, and Jupiter. And thus it makes it inflated and exaggerated its effect very, very unrealistically. The reality manifested itself far away from the fantasy through the transit of Saturn, which is the ruler of Ukraine's natal chart. Saturn came to his return period, which happens about once in 30 years. Is the resurrection of soul searching and karma for all that was the past 30 years. The examination of the lessons learned in so-called adolescence. Not a simple period, and the period of maturity and ripening. In February, with the outbreak of the war between Russia and Ukraine, Saturn not only conjunct the moon of the country, thus brought great sorrow and restrictions to the people, but also stood in front of the planet clusters that Ukraine has in sign Leo. Saturn is a very slow-moving planet, so unfortunately the chance that this war will end quickly is not high. There are, though, two options for the outcome of the war. Either it will continue until Saturn enters Pisces next year and moves away from all the challenging aspects to the planets of Ukraine, or the second possible outcome, in May this year, there will be a dramatic change in the war and Ukraine will be conquered. And since then, Saturn will continue to cause problems in the country until it will get away from challenging aspects. So May is going to be some change in the country because of lunar and solar eclipse. Until then, unfortunately, there will be a war and suffering for the citizens of Ukraine, mainly due to the challenging combination of Pluto and Saturn, both in transit and in the natal chart itself. Although Ukraine will get help from other countries, but it won't be enough, and it will be much less than they expected, than Zelensky expected and fantasized to himself. This is all that I wanted to tell you about this subject. If you still aren't subscribers to my channel, I invite you to subscribe, and please put a thumbs up if you like the video, and as a recognition for my hard work. I thank you all, and I wish you, until we have better and happier days, a lot of health. Goodbye and take care.